down the hammer and pick up the pencil. You're about to listen to the Savvy Radio Show. Learn from real-life real estate investors, experience revealed with the Savvy Landlord as your host.
Yeah. What's going on, Savvy Investors? This is your friend, Steve VanCauwenbergh, the Savvy Landlord / Savvy Investor / super duper entrepreneur, wannabe, trying to get it done each and every day, grinding it out, trying to run a marathon, trying to live life, trying to be a dad, all those things and above in my mind. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. If this is your first time, oh shucks, you're in for a good one, because I have been correlating, whatever, putting together just questions pop off random that I think that people should know as a real estate investor. And where I'm at right now, I am on episode 596. Wow, almost 600. But if you like this episode and you want to know more what every real estate investor should know, go to episode 584. That's when I kick this series off. And 585 back to back of everything that a real estate investor should know. This is just a quick way to learn, down and dirty. 30 years, or actually, I wish it was 30 years, 20 years of experience distilled down to things that have slapped me in the face. And then we'll start off with number one: aggressive dog breeds. A lot of people don't know this, that certain insurance companies, Shelter is one of them, will not honor their insurance if you have a pit bull or your tenant does. And what does that mean for you? For example, if you're just an uneducated real estate investor, but not today because you just got educated, and you just get some random insurance, and there's, I think, 10 or 12 breeds of dogs that are not covered under your policy. And so what does that look like? If that dog, the tenant, the pit bull, jumps over the fence, which has happened, and mauled a young child, your insurance would not fight for you, will not fight for you in a court of law, because you're getting sued because you mauled the child, not you, but it's negligence, because you need to let the tenant know that you are not allowing aggressive breed dogs. So what you should do, get off the radio show and call your insurance agent and get it in writing. What breeds am I allowed to have in my property, and what's the liability if a tenant does that, and making sure that you're covered. Yes, this is just from experience. Many years I did not know that in a random conversation with a real estate realtor with a insurance agent, and they're like, yo, we don't cover that. Now, to let you know, the insurance that I do have now, I made sure it does cover aggressive breeds. Not all insurance companies are the same, and don't just choose the cheapest, which is what I've done for many years. And Shelter is a phenomenal insurance company. I have had some claims with them. Very successful process, but they don't like asbestos siding, and they don't like aggressive dogs. So if you have Shelter, do not let any of your tenants in there. And if I was you, I would put that in the lease. No aggressive breeds in the property, on the property, around the property, anywhere near the property. Bang, bang. 2, do not call yourself a landlord. You call yourself a property manager. When you call yourself a landlord, a lot of things happen. First of all, it's a negative term. Yep, Steve VanCauwenbergh, the Savvy Landlord, is dropping the word landlord. So, yep, you can call me Savvy from here on in. I don't know what you're going to call me, but Steve VanCauwenbergh is just as fine and great for me, or just Savvy. Whatever you want to call me, it doesn't really matter. But you should let you know and introduce yourself not as a landlord. Number 2, things that you should know: do not call yourself a landlord. I know I've said it twice. I'm going to say it one more time, because it sets the tone that they can talk to you directly and they can negotiate with you directly, and they think that you own the property. That's not the relationship that you want to establish, especially when people can't pay their rent, especially when people want new windows or new this and that and lawsuits and so on and so forth. You call yourself a property manager. For example, I was on a property. Hey, can I change out this fan? Can you guys, I'll buy the fan, or you buy the fan and I'll put it in. Hold on. let me go to my truck and let me call the property management. Well, at that time, I was managing my own properties, but I gave the illusion that I'm a property manager. So they would also speak to me in a specific manner that they wouldn't talk to the owner of the property. For example, when someone doesn't pay their rent, hey, I'm not going to lose my job because you don't pay your rent on time. This is a policy and procedure. We must follow the law in our company. And it's a fair housing that we have to treat everyone equally. If I take your rent on a certain time, I have to take it with somebody else. If I pick up your rent, I have to do it for everybody else. We have to be consistent. This is a business. So stop calling yourself a landlord. Stop calling yourself the owner of the property, because you really don't own the property. The bank owns the property. And if you have it debt free, that's another episode. You shouldn't do that either. You're opening yourself up for another liability. So don't call yourself a landlord anymore. Call yourself a property manager and take it from there. Number 3, 100 deals before you purchase a property. I was running into an investor the other day, and he didn't know that. And I was like, a rookie guy, and I was like, okay, I guess I've read the different books than you've read. You may have not read, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I may even mention it in my book. I have written a book called The Savvy Landlord. I would appreciate if you would at least write a review about it. Anyway, it's on Audible now, so that's even a good thing for me. Thank you very much. It's been a long time coming. 2012 is when I put it out, so 7 years of pain. But the rule of thumb that I learned 20 years ago is you've got to analyze. I'm talking about get out of the chair, get out of your couch, and go look at least 50 properties. You are a rock star if you can get to 100 properties so you know exactly what you're dealing with. I love a good friend of mine, Robert Elder. He has got 700-something units in Oklahoma City, just crushing it. And he's like, the difference, he said this one time in a classroom, I was so humbled. He said, Stephen, the difference between us and these students is that we've been in thousands of houses. And it's so true, man. I can analyze a deal just by a few questions and maybe a photo or two. But you, a rookie investor, if that's you, or even if you've only been into 20, you've got to see 100 houses with your own eyes. You've got to run the numbers 100 times with 100 different deals, and then try to get a mentor to help you and decipher what was the right way to go and how do you arrive at these numbers. This is a deal. After you get 100 deals done in your mind, it's like almost like practicing with the stock market, right? Like they teach us in school, like act like you got money in it and run it and see what your profit is a fun game. You need to treat the same thing in real estate. You need to, how much is it, if you got to call contractors to get pricing, as I mentioned before, this awesome investor, or I'm going to say actually, this Friday I was writing the podcast, this investor, before he even bought the property, called his insurance agent and got a quote for a flood insured property. Dude, baller. That's called safe due diligence. You want to know exactly. So you want to run this scenario all the time. I know there's software out there. I know there's spreadsheets out there, and people just run the numbers through the spreadsheet and it's a deal. It's not a deal. No, you need to take a pen to a napkin and write out the cash flow. Even today, even multi-million-dollar properties I'm going to buy, I write it down. How much per unit? What is the cost? Can I spread? What is the trash? What's the water? What's my maintenance? What's my vacancy? And I write it down just like old school. I do it to this day. Yes, I have formulas. Yes, I have accountants. Yes, I have realtors that do this for me, but I still to this day, I take responsibility. You must take responsibility to go through 100 houses if you want to be a baller, if you want to make money and have the safe and best career possible as a real estate investor and live the life that you want. You've got to do the due diligence. You got to put the time in, stop cutting corners and get it done. Number 4, PMI. Wow. Someone didn't know PMI. So, I mean, I'm not trying to be condescending, but it's just interesting how corrupt we are in society that these mortgage loan people, banks, put PMI. What PMI is called private mortgage insurance. PMI, and it's whack. If you buy a house that, will give you an example, that's a $100,000 house, ARV, that's what it's worth, and you got it under contract for 90, you're going to pay PMI somewhere. Now, on a commercial loan, it's going to be different, but if you're going to get a conventional loan with a regular mortgage broker and you're over 80%, like 79 and above, you're going to pay this thing called PMI, and it's bogus. It's private mortgage insurance. It's only to protect the bank. Wow. Take no more risk, bank. Charge you another $100 a month. Yes, there's people paying $100 a month and they don't even know why they're paying it because they see it on their statement called PMI, private mortgage insurance, and that's called also known as gap insurance for a car. They just don't believe that you're going to be faithful, that you're going to default. That's why they loan money. I mean, I don't want to get into it, but I amped up on PMI. I've been amped up when I learned that my mentor told me when I bought my first house so long ago, dude, do a deal where you don't buy it for less than 80% so you don't have to pay PMI. I'm like, what's PMI? So I've always learned from this day forward, I never buy a house no more than 80. I try to ride at 65, 70. 75 is kind of my max. 70 is like I like to roll. I'll buy anything at 70% ARV with cash flow. It doesn't really matter where it is. So these are the standards that I have. That could be another tip. You got to have a standard. But here's the deal. You need to understand that you may have PMI on your residence. You don't even know it, which is normal. Don't beat yourself up and check it out. They're not going to drop it off when your neighborhood appreciates 10% because Oklahoma City's on fire and that $100,000 house now is worth $120 and you only owe $80. They don't just drop off PMI. You have to request PMI to be removed. And how do you do that? You can request it. They blow you off because why? You're paying $100 free money. No one cashes in on PMI. They probably do very small percentage, but you have to order an appraisal. So savvy people probably, I would order an appraisal to save $100 a month, but then most people don't have their paycheck to paycheck. So they don't have $500 or $700, whatever an appraisal costs to get the actual value of the property to remove this PMI. I know people in my life that I love dearly, AKA family, and I know they have PMI on their property, on their residence, and they don't get it off. Get it off. Don't buy property with a PMI. Now, here's a little tip for you. Well, VanCauwenbergh, you sound so smart. Well, I'm really not that smart, guys. I mean, you know that by now. You can just tell the way I talk. But back in the day, you could hustle at a PMI. How? You can get 2 loans. It's coming back. You can get a loan for 80%. So you can get a loan from one bank that's $80,000. And you can get a loan for $10,000 for the 90, or you can get a private loan for 20. Now, some mortgage companies or conventional loans won't like to do that, but it's coming back. I've seen it. I've also closed a few transactions where I've carried back 20%, and that real estate investor bought one of my properties and he brought 80% from another bank. So it's possible not to do PMI, but now you know what PMI is, so now you know what you're dealing with. Number 5, homestead. Another thing that's related to your own home, and it's called the homestead exemption. Now, what I'm about to say may not be 100% accurate, so this is just my understanding. Everything you got to trust but verify, and everything you do, you got to verify. Okay? These are just my opinions. But the homestead exemption, number 1, in Oklahoma is phenomenal. It kind of helps you. The homestead exemption is like if anything ever went wrong with you, no one could take your property. What do you mean? If you got like a bankruptcy, you got murder, whatever the case may be, you are homestead. No one can just steal your home from you. They can't take it. If you don't have a loan on it, if you default on your mortgage, yes, they can take it. But if you didn't have a debt on your loan, on your mortgage, or you're current with your payment, no one could take your home away from you. That's called homestead. You can get up to 2, I think, outside of your zone. I'm not sure about Oklahoma. Now, of course, property taxes trump all that. So if you don't pay your property taxes, you're dumb. They can snatch your property for little money, but you got to get a homestead exemption. And now here's I haven't verified this, Google this up, but when you do get homestead on your property, it kind of freezes the tax burden and it kind of locks it in place. There's certain laws in Oklahoma where you can't increase no more than 3% per year of taxes on a property. And then if you get homestead, and if you get a senior homestead, which is something else, I'm making this up, but you can't, but anytime a transaction happens, so if I sold my property, it would accelerate to the current market. So for example, I homestead and I'm a senior and my property is worth $100,000 today, and I keep that going and I live for 70 years, 30 more years, my tax burden is going to be extremely low compared to my neighbor who just bought that property, because now the market has increased 30 years later, probably tripled in value in Oklahoma City. That's how this rate is going. Let's just keep it conservative, 20%. Now the house is worth $200,000. The neighbor buys the property. They're going to pay taxes on a $200,000 house while I'm next door, still locked in on a homestead with the senior freeze. Now, of course, I don't know the right terms. I just kind of broad strokes. That's the stuff that I understand and see, but you need to check it out yourself. You need to understand what homesteading is. And I found out that a lot of people don't homestead their home. You're allowed to at least do one property. And I think you can do two, but I'm just going to verify with one. And I just had Oklahoma assessor call me the other day because I changed my residence address to my office because I'm tired of just mail coming to my residence. And they verified that. Do you still live there? I'm like, yes, I still live there, because they just assume, and they want to drop the homestead exemption off of my house because they just assumed that I turned it into a rental property, which I did last time I lived in my last residence, bounced out, moved to the second crib, and kept, and then eventually they figured it out and dropped the homestead. So they're always watching homestead. You need to homestead your house. Number 6, this is a long one. Number 6, treat this game as a business and stop being a hobby. You treat real estate investing as a hobby, you're going to get hobby results, hobby pay, hobby profits. Treat it like a professional. You're going to get stung when you're playing in this game as a child. Your government, wherever you are, your tax burden, like for example, in Oklahoma, if you hold a property for 5 years and you sell it, you don't have to pay state tax after 5 years. I learned that the hard way. Each county and city is different, but the state of Oklahoma is different. But the deal is, if I was a business owner, I know all the legalities or all the advantages for me, I'd probably be a better investor. Now, 20 years later, I'm trying to be a better investor. And that's why I'm doing these things every real estate investor should know. So you should know that you should keep this deal as a business and stop playing around. Now, that leads into number 7, vocabulary. Okay? How many syllables is that? Vocabulary. Listen, you got to learn the vocabulary. You got to know what ARV is. You got to know what JV means, joint venture. You got to know how a PEX tool works. You got to know about a sewer line. You may never have to do that, and I recommend you never do that, but still you need to know that. You need to know the vocabulary of a contractor. You need to know the vocabulary of a tax accountant. You need to know the vocabulary of a banker. You need to know the vocabulary of a real estate investor. You need to know what perils are in insurance. You need to know what EC insurance is. You need to understand what GL insurance is, okay? You need to learn the vocabulary, be an expert in the game. Even if you're only going to stay for a little while, you can learn this. Go to your local real estate club and connect, or come to the landlordlunch.com. We meet once a month, and these are great questions. And number 8, the final, goals. Dude, every real estate investor needs to have a goal. First of all, the bank. I remember when I first started interviewing banks, when the ball started rolling with me, the number one question I felt like they asked me every single time was, what's your goals? They were testing me to see if I was going to be wild. They were testing me to see if I was in tune to what my financial statement said. Ooh, that was a nugget for you. Drop it like it's hot. Yes. If I have a booby low, only 10 units, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to take down 5 houses this week, that's not in line and congruent with what I'm doing. So you got to know what your goals are and how you're going to reach those goals. You got to put on I'm going to take down X amount of units. The way I say today, I don't care about units no more. I call about cash flow. I want to make X amount a month in cash flow. And how am I going to do that? By setting a goal and then a process. If you need help setting goals, let me know. I can do a whole episode on goals. Or if you're real brass, message me, text me. Hey, VanCauwenbergh, I'd like to sit with you and I want to work on my goals. And then the next thing I'm going to say, start writing them out. When you got them written out, I'm going to give you instructions, and then we're going to show up at the office or at lunch or coffee or whatever you want to do, and we'll grind them out. That's how you do it. That's how you build a relationship. You write it down before you get there. If you don't write it down, you don't know how to get there. You got to write out a goal. I'm telling you, someone needs to hear that today. This is your friend, Steve VanCauwenbergh. You tuned in to the Savvy Radio Show. We just knocked out Things Every Real Estate Investor Should Know Part 3. If you like this one episode, let your boy know. Go to episode 584 and 585. I have similar simple things that we need to know. If I forgot one, please let me know. I'm trying to keep a list of all this stuff so I can help other people. I appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate you listening. If you can be so kind and write an iTunes review, even though that just crushes me on the inside. But iTunes is the dominator. Apple is the dominator of podcasts and reviews, even though I'm an Android for life, hopefully, unless some other technology comes around. But I would really appreciate a review. If this impacted you in any way, it would help me and the future people behind me that I'm trying to raise up to take SavvyInvestors.com to the next level. Whatever you do, give somebody a hug. And the second thing you need to do, think about an asset and go grab it, go buy it, make it happen.
What is the Savvy Bootcamp? Are you struggling to get to the next level as a business owner, as an investor? Do you want to multiply your income? Sign up for the Savvy Bootcamp, a strategic and supercharged one-night and one-day event designed to shortcut your learning process and propel you forward. Just value, no upsells, and an intimate setting to build relationships with like-minded investors. We will be covering how personality profiling can make you a millionaire, outsourcing and the nitty-gritty of maximizing your property management, scaling your business through systems and automation, technology hacks you should be using every day, and how to raise private money. Go to www.savvybootcamp.com now to register or to find out more.
Thanks for listening to the Savvy Radio Show. Glide online and listen to our other motivating episodes at SavvyRadioShow.com. Connect on Twitter at LandlordBook and always be buying assets.